Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I apologize for the delay, but I realized that my poor iPad was at 2%. And so I had to rearrange everything. But I am here, and I hope that you are coming along. Rhonda, I owe you a call back. I did get your call. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I am Zakiya Monique. I'm a master life and relationship strategist, and I'm a transformational speaker. Hey, cuz, Chiquita, how are you? And I'm a transformational speaker as well. And what I do is I provide strategies, no fluff strategies, okay? But I provide no fluff strategies to those who want healthy relationships, not just healthy intimate relationships, but healthy platonic relationships as well. Because how many of us know that when our hearts are aching because we don't get along with mom, still a problem. You can be all good with boo and bae, but when you and daddy beefing, when you and mama beefing, when you and your children are beefing, when you're dealing with blended families, it still hurts. So I help you repair all of those relationships in your life, okay, so that you can not only obtain them, but sustain them too, okay? So that's what I do, all right? That's what I do. And how does this stuff work together? I want to tell you real quick. During the week, I talk about relationships, okay? I talk about relationships like almost every day, all right? But then on Sundays, I come and I talk to you about what we call the Sunday School Remix, right? And so here's how they tie together. Oftentimes, what's wrong in our relationships is that our spiritual is low. Okay, our spiritual is low, and we have not followed some of God's order in our relationships. And so sometimes we need to merge them. Okay, we need to merge them. So I often find that my relationship clients need spiritual, and my spiritual clients need to learn relationships. And so I have created two brands, one of which is called Relationships and Situationships, and another one which is called Sunday School Remix. And we play off of one another. So on Sundays, you see me doing Sunday School Remix, and through the week, you hear me talking about relationships and situationships. But trust me, they all go together. So good morning, Pam. Good morning, Rhonda. Good morning, Timothy. Good morning, Nana. Good morning, everybody. I want to talk to you today about the Queen Code. The Queen Code, okay? And we're going to be in Esther, in the Bible, in Esther. But even if you don't believe in the Bible, trust me when I tell you that you can get something from the Sunday School Remix, okay? Because everything is not Esther 4 and 5. No, I'm telling you about life gems that go along with that, okay? So, good morning, everybody. I want you to get you pen and paper because I'm telling you some of these nuggets help me. Do you hear me? They help me. All right. So let's talk about the Queen Code. First of all, order and influence. What made me want to talk about this? Well, I prayed about it, but let me tell you something. Some recent situations that I've been going through with my family have let me know that we are too comfortable being out of order. Can I say that one more time? We are too comfortable being out of order. All right. Many of us are too comfortable being out of order. Why? Because that's just how she is. That's just how she is. But that's not going to work anymore. Okay, God is challenging us and charging us to bring it up a notch. It's time to bring it up a notch. We can't keep just saying that's just how she is. You know, you out of order all over the place, everywhere. No, not at all. So with that being said, we're going to talk about the order and the influence and opportunity and the obedience of Esther this morning. We're going to talk about all of those things, okay? And why? Why did I start off with Rhonda said, preach, she's guilty. Why did I start off with the women of the Bible? Because let me tell you something. There's something about the fragrance of a woman that changes the place. Okay. There's something about the fragrance of a woman that changes the place. And for some reason, we tend to think that we are only fit for the kitchen. We are only fit for pastor's aides. We are only fit for certain areas. And listen, the bottom line is this: God can use whom he chooses to do what he wants them to do. Okay. But we have more. My job is not just to sell chicken dinners at the church. I am a minister. I'm a minister in my actions. I'm responsible to the kingdom for my actions. And that's something that we have to learn to own up to. And we have to understand that we have a job every single day to do in the kingdom. We have a job. And so I wanted to start off to show you the different dynamics of women of the Bible and the things that they did. So I'm not here to condemn you about your life. I'm not here to tell you you need to believe what I believe, but I'm simply here to give you nuggets and to show you different aspects of their lives. Okay, show you different aspects of their life. So what do we know about Esther? What do we know? Many of us know about Ruth and Esther in the Bible. We know about Ruth and we know about Esther because those are the two chapters of the Bible. We know about those. Okay, so let's talk about what do we know. Well, first of all, there was a king, okay, and he ruled over 127 different provinces, okay, from India to what we know now as Ethiopia. He was in the 3rd year of his reign. So he was a fairly new king, but he was in the 3rd year of his reign. And what he did was for 180 days, he showed off his riches and his wealth. He showed everybody, who he was. And then after the 180 days, he gave a 7-day banquet for the men. And then he had his queen to host the wives. Okay. So just imagine he got a 7-day banquet for the men. And then he had his wife, which is Queen Vashti. Some people say Vashti, but I just don't think the T is. Okay, so Vashti, her name is Sweetheart and Beloved. And so guess what? She hosted the women, he hosted the men for these 7 days, right? And so on day 7, he sent some eunuchs. Some people call them eunuchs, whatever. He sent some eunuchs to go get her because he wanted to show off her beauty. He wanted to show how beautiful she was. And so he sent them, he said, go get my wife because I just want to show off her beauty. And what ended up happening was she said, look here, I ain't coming. Look here, I ain't coming. And can I just stop and give a little bit of a side note? Showing off never results in anything good. Showing off never results in anything good. Now, if you are talking about the goodness of the Lord, that's one thing. You giving God glory, that's another thing. But showing off never leads to anything good. Okay, and so, she wouldn't come and it infuriated him. Remember, he was drunk at this point. This is day 7 of his 7-day banquet where they tossing up wine and they eating good and all of this type of stuff. And so he couldn't waste it at this point, right? So what did he do? He consulted with his legal and his justice team and he said, look here, she won't come. What do I do? And they said, look, you got to deal with her. You got to deal with her because if you don't deal with her, then our wives gonna think they ain't got to listen to us. And he said, you right. You're right. So he said, you know what? She got to go. And he did all this while he was drunk now. He done been drinking. He said, she got to go. And he decreed it that she would be, she could no longer be queen. He sent on her way. So he commanded her to never enter his sight again. Remember, he's the king. He commanded her to never enter his sight again. And so what ends up happening? Now it's a hunt on for a new queen. So let me give you a couple of nuggets from that. First of all, ladies, know your mate, okay? Remember, I told you spiritual goes with the relations go. Know your mate, and vice versa. They should know us too, okay? But know your mate. First of all, this whole thing could have been avoided. Can we just go there? The whole thing could have been avoided. This was nothing major, okay? But we have to know our mates. We have to know who we're dealing with. When I was in relationship, I studied my mate well enough to know when they were angry or enraged or whatever emotion that they had. Okay. We have to know our mates, first of all. Another thing is never make permanent decisions while emotionally or temporarily impaired. This man was on day 7 of a banquet where they were drinking plenty of wine and having a good old time, and he was upset and made a decree in the middle of his, not even the middle, the end of his celebration. You on day 7. That means you've been tossing up. You've been doing everything. And instead of him saying, you know what, I'm going to deal with this tomorrow when I get back to the office. I'm going to deal with this tomorrow when I'm back in my right mind. No, he made a decree that had to stand even when his situation, even when his temperament changed. And some of us don't realize that we do the same thing. We make decrees and we declare things and we give our word and we speak things. I just did a live video last week that said, you so fake. The name of it was You So Fake. And I talked about how we will sometimes clown. I'm talking about go straight nuts on a person that has been clutched simply because we're in our Emotions. So the first time that person tells us no, we go off the handle, even though they told us yes a million times. Why? Emotions. I don't care if you are the most saved person in the world. I don't care if you're walking with your arm in Jesus' arm. You will let his arm go when them emotions come if you're not careful. This is why we have to learn and daily we have to keep our emotions under control, because otherwise they will lead us. And when they lead us, oh baby, they always lead us to a ditch. They always lead us to repentance. They always lead us in a place that we don't want to go. Okay, and if this is good to you, please, please, please share. Thank you, everybody who's come in, and good morning to everybody who's come in. So we're talking about the Queen Code: order and influence, opportunity and influence, obedience and influence. Some of us have a lot of influence and we're not using it properly. And I'm telling you, and I'm not saying this to scare anybody, but you're gonna have to answer for how you use your influence. Whether it's in your house with your children, whether it's among your friends, you have to answer for how you use your influence. Okay, so here is the thing. So he done made this decree now, and it said that after he was no longer upset, over in chapter 2, it said after he was no longer upset, he remembered Vashti. But it was too late, wasn't it? After he was no longer upset, it said that he remembered her, but it was too late. It was too late. She was gone. Why? Over something that didn't have to happen. How many people are in prison over something that didn't have to happen? How many people are in the graveyard? Something that didn't have to happen. How many people will tell you that they wish they could go back and change that situation because tempers were flaring, emotions were high because of whatever? And that's exactly what he did. He made that decree and he had to stand by it. So it was like, okay, the hunt is now on for a new queen. So let me talk to you. I want to pause real quick here because there's another point that I want to make, and this is going to be a little controversial, and I'm okay with that. If you know me by now, you know I'm okay with a little controversial. Let me tell you something. Some of us need to learn to level up when we're making important decisions. Boom. I said it. Some of us need to learn to level up when we are making important, life-changing decisions. When this king was at this party, this banquet, this 7-day banquet, after he done been there for 7 days, okay? I'm talking about the turn up was real. And after he done been there for 7 days, he consulted with people that was right around him. They had to party with you, bruh. That mean they tossed up with you, bruh. That mean they ain't in no condition to really give you no. You see what I'm saying? And you know, we do the same thing. We go right around us, to the people right around us. And sometimes the people that are very close to us are just as close to our situation. They're just as close to our situation. Sometimes you need to get somebody that's unbiased. Sometimes you need to get somebody who is a little bit a step further from your situation that can see it in an unbiased way. But in addition to that, let me say this. Some of us will say, I don't take advice from people if they don't do this or if they don't do that. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you how you can miss your greatest blessing sometimes. It's by having these, by putting God in a box, by saying who he should use. I heard there was a question. There was a question this week in a group that said, would you take advice from a single person about your relationship? And everybody said no. And I said to myself, well, what about if she's not always been single? I'm single. I'm a relationship coach. I'm single. And there are a lot of people who say, well, I can't take advice from you because you're single, but I ain't always been single, boo. And the fact that I am single had nothing to do with me. See, we automatically think that if you divorced, you did something wrong. If you're single, there's something wrong with you. You know, you don't know nothing about relationships if you're single. That's not true. You don't know the circumstances. One of my Facebook friends that I joke around with a lot said, never take, what did she say? Never let a naked man promise you a shirt. I said, but what if he gave his shirt to somebody? What if he took his shirt off and gave it to somebody and he got a shipment of shirts on the way? See, my thing is, I always think differently. I think bigger, okay? I believe, and I learned this as a child, I learned that you can learn from anybody, even if it's what not to do, okay? I learned there was a place from where I'm from, they called them the Visger Road Bums. And the Visger Road Bums, okay, were the guys that showed up every day on this block to get drunk. And we thought they were bums, but these men were actually retired and educated. They just were retired at this point. They just felt like we didn't want to do nothing else. We want to get toasted, okay? And so guess what? I learned at that time as a child that you don't judge a person. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know what they can gift you. But if you sit up and say, I don't take advice from nobody who ain't married 10 years or so, I don't take advice from, then you don't know how God will gift you what he's going to gift you. When we're praying for things, you don't have the right to tell God, well, this is how I want you to deliver it. And this is how I want, he going to do it how he pleases. And so if he uses, and in the Bible and throughout the Bible, he used whom he pleased. So if you say, Lord, I don't want a whore to do nothing for me. Well, you don't know if she was a whore before. I mean, how many, what do they call them? Yes, God can use anybody. Okay. How many loose women were used in the Bible to do great things? But we still have these stigmas on, I don't want, can't no single person tell me nothing. A single person can tell you how they ended up in their situation. We have to stop it. We are missing out on such great things because we have all these, how dare we ask God for something and then have the nerve to be picky? Oh, don't send it like that. Don't do it like that. I don't want it from her. I don't want it from him. Okay, well, then you don't want it. So we have to be careful about, I don't take advice from single people because you don't know if they've always been single. I know a young lady who lost her husband after 20 years. So after 20 years, yeah, she's widowed, she's single. But you don't think she can tell you about marriage? She was married 20 years, but now she's single. Just because of her now does not mean that she can't gift you her then. Hello? So we have to be very careful about, I don't take advice from this and I don't take advice from that. Listen to what they're saying. Try it against your spirit. Our job is to stay connected. Our job is to stay connected. And guess what? God will let us know what to spit out. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. And that's how you go from there. I will hear everybody, but I will listen to a few, but I will hear everybody because, Lord, is that from you? If not, all right. Peace. But I'm not going to shut nobody down because of who they are today, because I don't know what your past contains. All right. So I just wanted to drop that in there because this king was taking advice from people that was sitting up at a party just as drunk as him. And he ended up having to look for a queen because he made an emotional decision in the middle of anger and being intoxicated. And so I just wanted to stop there. So now they're looking for a queen, right? They're looking for a queen. You can follow all of this in Esther. This is the book of Esther. I didn't want to go like line by line. That's just way too much. So good morning, everybody. So now he has to find a queen because he done dismissed his last queen, right? So, and let me say something else too. Let me say another thing. Sometimes married people are married and miserable, and they will give you terrible advice about remaining in a marriage. They will give you terrible advice about, I remember a young girl telling me that she was in a situation and she was at a crossroads about marrying a guy. And a young woman who was married told her, marry him and make him pay since he did some things to you. Make him pay. Who wants to live like that? Who want to live tit for tattish? You know, I'm not, no. So some married people will give you some awful advice and some single people will give you some awesome advice. So don't have those hangups. So let's move on. So now they're looking for a pure queen. They're looking for a pure queen. What happened if they was looking for pure virgins today? Oh, okay. I just want to ask that question. What happened if they were looking for pure? They would have to find newborns. What happened if they were looking for young virgin queens today? They would near about have to find some toddlers in our world today, and that's sad. And I'm not saying that that's no shade. I'm just being honest. If they were looking for young toddlers today, young virgin queens today, where would they find them? Have we taught our daughters to value the value of purity? Have we taught our daughters the value of just saving something for marriage? Have we taught our daughters to be confident with their most organic state? Just a thought. Maybe they don't have their virginity to give, but by golly, you shouldn't be tossing it up with everybody. As Betty Wright said, you shouldn't show your feet to every guy you meet. Like, who ordained us to just have a baby by every guy we talk to? Who started that? Who okayed that? Who okayed us to meet a guy and have a baby with him and then meet a guy and then have a baby with him and then meet a guy and have a baby with him? Like, who told us that was okay? I just want to know. And it's no judgment, because oftentimes when I see people say, who raised these girls? Nobody. Nobody. Having a child and having them in your house has nothing to do with you giving them lessons. So sometimes nobody is raising them. That's the answer. Okay, so our daughters are out here nowadays going on camping trips with full faces of makeup. Have we taught them to be okay with no weave? See, I got weave because it's heat, okay? Because of the heat, 100 degrees, 90 degrees. But I'm okay. If I had to take this out, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. If I had to take these lashes off, I'm okay with that. I don't have any makeup on today. I'm okay with that. And I teach my daughter to be okay with that. You're not going to walk around with no face full of makeup all day, with no hair full of all day, all the time. What about being okay with your most organic state, with your purest state? What's up with that? How do you send a child on a camping trip with a full face of makeup? What happened? Okay, so with that being said, we have to think about that, because at that time they were looking for pure virgin queens. And if they were looking for pure and virgin nowadays, we'd be in trouble. We'd be in trouble. And that's something to think about. So another thing I want to talk about is you never know what your disobedience may cost. When he sent for Vashti and he told her to come here and she said no, it cost her the entire queendom. It cost her the entire queendom because she said no in that moment. Mo said he liked organic. Yeah, you got to be okay with your organic self. You just can't wake up every day in a wig. I mean, come on. Your beauty should not be on the dresser every night. No, you got to learn to be beautiful without all that sometimes. It's cool to have it. You know, right now my lashes is on the struggle bus. I'm trying to get them off, honey. But I'm okay without all this, you know, and we have to learn to be okay without covering up all of our flaws. So anyway, you never know what your disobedience may cost. And let me tell you something. See, the king was her husband, but he was also the king. He was also her king. You see what I'm saying? We can't get so full of pride and ego. He was also her king. And he said, come here. And if she would have been a regular citizen, she would have got up and come to him and seen what he wanted or paid the price. But she slipped up thinking he my husband. No, if your husband is your pastor, you got to know which one is he right now. If he telling me something is my pastor, okay, I deal with it that way. And if he's my husband, I deal with it that way. But the bottom line is, hey, he was her king. And she told him no. And it cost her whole queendom. That's something to think about. You never know what disobedience may cost. It cost her the kingdom. And last but not least, for as far as this is concerned, let God be your ruler. Don't get caught up in the power. See, she was flexing her power. He flexing his power. When you get into power trips in relationships, it costs too much. It's too hard. It's exhausting to be fighting against your mate to see who's powerful, who's the most powerful, when you could be spending that time working together, teamwork. See, many of us women are out of order because we've had to function out of order for so long. We've had to function a long time out of order. We've had to be the man and the woman in the household for so long that when the man comes along, we don't know how to let go. Can I just be honest? We don't know how to let go and let him be a man. Now, I said a man. I didn't say the one that's going to be on your couch playing video games. That's foolishness. That's a boy. That's a male. That's not a man. I'm talking about when a man comes along, we don't know how to let him lead because we've been leading for so long. When a man comes along, we don't know how to hush. We don't know how to say, okay, I'm going to dial back because I didn't for a long time. Now, you ain't going to tell me what to do because I finance myself. And you will find yourself by yourself because a man is not going to allow you to talk to him sideways crazy. He's just not going to do it. Okay, so with that being said, now we are on to Esther. Queen Esther, her name was Hadassah, right? Hadassah meant a tree whose leaves released fragrance when crushed. So when Esther's back was against the wall, Hadassah, when her back was against the wall, she released the fragrance that got her out of trouble. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes because I don't want to hold you too long. But let me tell you something. Esther meant hidden and her Jewish identity was hidden. I used to hate my name. I used to hate Zakiya. First of all, because my first grade teacher always wanted to go from the first name. So she would alphabetize by the first name, and I would always be last. I used to hate my name. And one day I went and got my check cashed at an Arabic place. And he said, "Are you of Arabic descent?" I said, "Is that going to get you to cash my check for free?" I'm just saying. I was like, "You going to cash my check for free? Because if so, yes, we are cousins." Okay. And he said, "Do you know what your name means?" And I told him, "No, I don't." And he said, "Your name means pure and intelligent." And then I found out that my middle name means counselor. So that's why the name of my business is Zakiya Monique, because it's pure, intelligent counselor. Sometimes you need to know the meaning of a thing to have a full understanding, to have a full love for it. I didn't like my name until I found out what my name meant and how it complemented the gifts that God had given me. That's just a tidbit. But anyway, so we got a couple of points here. Point number one, Esther became the queen. She went from orphan to queen like that. But it really wasn't like that. Okay. Here's the thing. So when her time for royalty came, she was ready. She was still pure. Hello. What if Esther would have been like, "I'm tired. I want to drop it like it's hot"? She would have been out of position. Some of us are out of position because we get tired of waiting for our time to come and we jump the gun or we do what we want to do. Well, when her time for royalty came, she was ready. She was still pure and organically beautiful. She wasn't turning up. Some of us are looking like the turn up. Some of us are starting to look hard like the turn up. We are. And you keep turning up, don't take care of yourself, don't moisturize your face, don't do whatever you got to do. After a while, you start looking hard. I've seen some young ladies that look like they just need a real good nap because they just tired. Okay? Anyway, so when her time for royalty came, she was ready. See, listen, suddenly, God can touch your situation suddenly. Suddenly. He can touch your situation suddenly. But it's not a suddenly for you. You've been waiting a long time. But he can touch your situation. But the question is, and he can take you from the bottom to the top when he touches your situation. But if it happened right now, would you be like the wise versions or would you be like the foolish versions? Would you have to go get ready or would you be ready? See, if God had a suddenly moment right here today, he said, "You know what? I'm going to touch your situation." So Intercessor Henry, I'm going to touch your situation. Yolanda, Mo, I'm going to touch your situation. If he decided he was going to touch your situation and take you to the goal that you wanted for yourself, the ultimate goal, he was going to put you on the center stage or he was going to put you in a position. Okay, Rhonda, if he decided, "I'm going to do everything that you want me to do for you today," would you be ready or would you have to go get ready? The reason why some of it's not happening for some of us is because we still got to go get ready. We're not ready. If we would be honest about it, we're just not. We're just not ready. And so here's the thing though. But even though he touched her situation and took her from orphan to queendom, there was still a process for her to get there. Now, let me say this to you. Hey, Mr. Mo Pasha, how are you? Let me tell you something. Even if God touches our situation, even if God says, "I want to bring you from the bottom to the top," there's still going to be a process, period. Okay, and that's something I had to learn the hard way. God still has a process. Even though he touched her and said, "Okay, it's time for you to become the queen," but we still got a process for you to become the queen. Let me tell you what she had to do. First of all, she had to show up. That's half the battle right there. She had to show up. And then when she had to show up, after she showed up, she had to show herself to the keeper of women and get his approval. So she couldn't just jump straight to the king. She had to go and show herself to the keeper of women and say, am I pretty enough? Am I good enough for him? And then the keeper of women say, yeah, I like her. She had favor with him. So he sent her over to this place with these women and gave her the best place to stay. But she still had to go through 6 months of purification with the oils and then 6 months of purification with the perfumes. She still had to go through 12 months worth of going back and forth to see the king and all this type of stuff because he was not going to make a decision overnight. See, some of us think that when God touches our situation, it's supposed to be easy peasy. I'm not going to go through a process. I don't have to do nothing else because God came. No, it don't work that way. Sometimes God will touch the situation and then you still have to go through the process. Sometimes he touches the situation after the process. But whatever the case is, that you will not be able to avoid the process. Can I just tell you that? So you might as well go on through it. You might as well go on through it. But you will not be able to avoid the process. God is a God of process and progress. If you don't see any progress in your processes, you have missed him. You've missed him. Okay, so she had to go through all of this stuff or whatever. And here's the thing. Some of us just want to just up and go before the king any kind of way. We just want to just up and go before the king any kind of way. We don't care. I'm any old kind of way. But the Bible even tells us, enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Hello. Hello. Everything has a process. Good morning, Sonia. Everything has a process. We must learn to trust the process and be patient. And that P word right there, Mr. Mo Pasha, that patient word is the word that gets us every time. Because if somebody told us today that we could be the queen, but we would have to go through a 12-month process and we would have to go back and forth to see the king, and the king would have to decide, we'd be like, I ain't about to do that. I ain't about to do all that. I ain't finna do all that. I ain't doing that. You know what I'm saying? Why? Because we INDEPENDENT, what you know what that means? We IND. Okay, you independent. But you got to know how to use your independence, and you got to know how to dial back. You have to know how to dial back. Okay? So it was a 12-month process for her. And so Mordecai raised her because she was an orphan. You never know who you raising, parents. Trust the process. Yes, cousin Tez. Trust the process. You never know who you're raising. Queens may be powerful, but we must remain pure and soft. Queens may be powerful, but we must remain pure and soft. Pure and soft. Pure and soft, ladies. Pure heart. Even if your body can't go back to being pure, your heart can be pure. See, we automatically think because we don't have a virginity to give that we have nothing to give. Your heart can be pure. Pure and soft. Esther, and when you go to 2 and 12, it says she had beauty treatments and sweet spices and perfumes and things that were purifying of women. Why? The king don't want a king, okay? King ain't looking for a king. He's looking for a queen. And many of us are hard. We're hard like men. We hard. We're bitter. We're hard. Rough. He don't want that. He wants something soft. He wants something that's different, that balances him. Okay? Something that balances him. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So she was submissive. And as a result, 2 and 17 says he loved her more than all others. And she obtained grace and favor more than all of the maidens. Why? Because she was pure and soft. She was pure and she was soft. Ladies, we win more battles. I wish somebody would have told me this when I was like 18. But we win more battles when we're pure and soft than we will when we hard. Because when you are hard, all you do is provoke him to become harder. We provoke him to be more defensive. But when you're pure and soft, one of the older ladies at the church who have been married over 50 years told me, baby, you're going about it all wrong. She said, cook that man a meal. Cook that man a meal and get what you want. Softly, not hard. Because men are geared to, you go hard, I go harder. Okay? Mo Pasha said that's lost. Men want their women to be pure and soft, but some have become contaminated in their heart. That's from a man. So if y'all didn't believe me, that was from a man. I just read a comment from Mr. Mo Pasha who said that's a loss. That's lost. Women being soft and pure is getting to be a rarity. Because now we're so hard. Why? Because we've had to do this thing by ourselves for so long. We're so bitter. We're so bitter and hard because we've had so many things to go on in our lives, and men have treated us any kind of way. You see what I'm saying? Let me segue right into my next point. Submission is not a bad thing. See, many of us we look at submission as a cuss word. You know why? Because we have submitted to the wrong person. Can we just be honest about the fact that we have chosen the wrong dominant to be submissive to? And then we faulted the process. Don't fault the process, okay? Let me tell you something. It's like weight loss. If you ate everything you wanted to eat, you cannot say this diet does not work. You can't do that. It's not the diet. It's you. It wasn't submission. It's you. It's who you chose to be submissive to. You cannot choose somebody who shows you that he ain't consistent in nothing but lying. You choose him and then wonder why you got heartache. He don't keep his word or nothing. But he had all these raggedy qualities, and you decided to fall into his arms, and then he dropped you, and you were trying to figure out what happened. But you can't fault the system of submission. It's not submission's fault. Submission is a beautiful thing when you're submissive to the right dominance. Because I don't know about you, but at some point we were not made to be the man and the woman. It is tiresome. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? It is tiresome to be the man and the woman. We were not created to be the man and the woman. Submission is a beautiful thing. It does not mean that he walks over you. Trust me. Esther submitted and got what she wanted from a man. Good morning, Miss Jeter. How are you? From a man. Okay. So submission is not a bad thing, but it has to be a wise thing. You have to submit to the right one. Don't submit to somebody that's going to have you sitting over in a ditch. Okay. And if you do, don't blame submission. Take your tea, and just say, I chose the wrong one to be submissive to. Because the system still works, but you got to let God have a hand in who you select. So let's go to point number two. Point number two, and that's we only had 2 points for today. The second point, the first point was Esther became the queen, but the second point was Esther saves Mordecai and her people. And how does she do that? Well, obedience, influence, and opportunity. Okay. First of all, she was obedient. Okay. Mordecai, who had raised her, remember, she was an orphan. Her parents had passed away. So Mordecai raised her, and he told her, don't tell them that you're a Jew. Don't do it. Now, can I stop right there? Because here's where we have a problem, ladies, being in order. She the queen. She could have been like, I ain't got to listen to him no more. How many of us would have done that? How many of us would have said, oh, okay, I'm going to still listen to him? And not. So some of us get in powerful positions and lose our whole mind. I ain't got to listen to him no more. I ain't got to listen to him. I ain't got to listen to that. But she listened to Mordecai. And Mordecai didn't have to give the backstory. See, sometimes you got to trust that a person has enough love for you and you just trust what they say. I don't want to have to give you the backstory. I shouldn't have to give you the backstory. I just told you don't tell them that you're a Jew. And the reason why was because he already knew that he was captive. That's the reason why they were there. He was captive in another situation. Nebuchadnezzar had brought him there. So he already knew, like, don't tell him that you're the Jew. He knew the backstory, but just don't do it. And she listened. She listened. Okay. And that was part of the reason why she was able to save the people, because she listened to what he had told her to do. So even though he had raised her, first of all, he recognized that she was the queen. So he didn't just go at her like he had always gone at her as the authority figure, but he was able to go at her in a specific way, and she received it in a specific way. So some of you elders, if you got your mama and your daddy around, look here, when we turn 19 and 20 and 21, you can't still treat them like they 14. You can't still treat them like they 7. One of the biggest problems in our family, in my family on my father's side, is that there's a gap between the youth and the elderly. And the reason why there's a big gap is because sometimes the elderly or the older people will still see us as the youth. I know y'all still got a problem too in y'all family, because they see you as little Z. Look at little Z. Look at little Z on the camera. Well, little Z in her 30s. You see what I'm saying? Little Z in her 30s, bro. So you have to learn to respect them as adults, even when you've seen them as children. So even though Mordecai had seen her and raised her and knew what she was about, he realized she was still the queen, and he respected that. And because of his respect for that, she had respect for him and all he had done for her. He received she received what he had to say. So it goes both ways. We have to have a mutual respect for what people may become, the positions that they may have. We can't always say, well, she ain't number, she 20 years old, she can't teach me nothing. You don't know that. Okay, so we got to be careful with that. Another thing was he didn't think of her age and the fact that he had raised her. He just went on and gave her props. So we got to make sure that happens. Another thing was influence. She was able to help save the people with her influence. Esther 2:22 says she told the king of the plot in Mordecai's name. So what happened was after Esther became the queen, Esther becomes the queen. When Esther becomes the queen, all of a sudden, these guys are plotting. Why? Because she's beautiful. He got a beautiful, young, pure virgin queen. And how many of us know that when God bless you, there are going to be some people that look on you and they're going to want to plot on you. And there's some people that look and they don't like it. They don't appreciate the fact that you got blessed and they start to plot. And that's exactly what happened with the king. And so when the king got this beautiful young virgin or whatever, here goes two of his men out here at the gates talking about what they're going to do to him and how they're going to get him. And Mordecai heard it, and Mordecai shot the kite to Esther. And Esther said, hey, this is what's going on. And those two men were hung. And he said, I'm going to write this in my book, put this in my book, that Mordecai saved my life. He put the book up. And so then after he had this queen or whatever, he floating, he good. He said, I need me a new side guy. I need me a new right hand. And so he promoted Haman. And so Haman said, I want everybody. Haman was full of himself. He was proud. And let me tell you something. From day one, since the first day that I ever touched this button, the one thing that I've talked about was purpose. And the reason why I talked about purpose is because too many of us either reach our purpose before it's time. And with purpose comes peace, power, and profits. And when a person reaches their power before time, it's a situation. It's a situation. It's a situation. It's a situation. See, Haman reached the power before he had gone through process. You can't have the promise before you go through process. If you try to do it and you end up there, it's going to be a problem, because the process gets some things out of you that you don't need in you when you access that power. Hello. So when Haman got to power, when he got to the king's right-hand man, he was still full of himself. He was not full of God. And so because he was so full of himself, what ends up happening is Haman wants everybody to bow down. Bow down. The king said, well, okay, bow on down to Haman. Give him reverence. Mordecai said, I will not. I will not. See, Mordecai was a Jew. He said, I'm not bowing to him. He ain't my God. And so word got back. You know what? He ain't bowing. I think he one of them Jews. So Haman went told the king, listen, enraged. See, once again, making permanent decisions when you temporarily upset, when you temporarily intoxicated. He went and he said, you know what? Hey, it's these people that don't believe like we believe. People. You see how he took it from one person to just people because he was upset. Instead of him dealing with Mordecai, no, he upset. So I'm going to just get rid of all his people because I'm mad because he wouldn't bow to me. Oh, okay, then. Oh, okay. So end of the day comes, okay. He go to the king, he tell him, listen, it's these people here, they don't believe like we believe, and we need to get rid of them. And the king said, okay. Became a decree, get rid of all the Jews. But Esther's a Jew and she's a queen, but he didn't know it. So he just made a decree to kill his wife and all her people, but didn't know it. And so what ends up happening is one day he can't sleep. Well, actually, before that happened, Mordecai shot the kite about what happened to Esther. Esther tells him, go on a 3-day fast. Now, what if Mordecai would have said, you can't tell me what to do? I raised you. This ain't the time, Mordecai. See, we got to learn how to not cut our nose off to spite our face. We got to learn that even if the youngster tell you something to do and it's of God, do it. We can't be here saying you single. You can't tell me what to do in my marriage. God uses whom he pleases. Esther told him, look, you get yourself together. Go tell the people to fast for 3 days. Don't eat nothing. Don't drink nothing. For 3 days, fast. And she said, I'm going to handle some things on my end. And she did. She handled some things on her end. He went and did what she told him to do. Meanwhile, the king can't sleep. The king gets up and what does he grab? His book. And he says, oh yeah, Mordecai saved my life. I never did do anything for him. Never did do anything for him. So then he asked Haman, he says, Haman, what would you do for somebody? What should I do for somebody who, who has been there for me? Haman's so full of himself. He says, oh, I think you should get him the best robes. And I think you should have, him go through town and be reverenced. And, oh, he came up with a grand plan, had no idea that the very person he hated was going to be the one that you coming up with this plan for. He said, oh, I think you should do this and you should do that. Meanwhile, Haman was coming up with a plan to kill Mordecai, to hang him on gallows. So he building a gallows to kill Mordecai, and the king over here saying, I want to lift him up because I just appreciate the fact that he saved my life. So Haman came up with this grand plan, and he said, well, hurry, hurry, hurry. And I want you to do all of that you just said for Mordecai. God will make your enemy bless you. Do I need to get closer? God will make your enemy bless you. Do you know how humiliated Haman felt to have to bless the one who wouldn't bow to him? God will make your enemy bless you. So anyway, after this happens, they still fasting. Esther said, babe, I want to have dinner with you, and I want Haman to come. He said, all right. Because remember, he loves Esther more than anybody. He loved her more than anybody. He just loved her. Why? Because she was submissive. She was submissive. She wasn't in there singing I-N-D-E-P-E. She was submissive. And so he said, whatever you want. Okay, Haman, come to dinner tonight. So now Haman feeling a little bit better now. Okay, at least I get to go to dinner. Because he mad. Okay, he peed off. Because he had to do all this stuff for Mordecai, but he thinking, okay. I get to go to dinner with him. Okay. I get to go to dinner with him. So they get to dinner, and she said, babe, someone who wants to kill my people. And she starts to talk about all of the things that Haman had decided he was going to do. And the king said, who wants to hurt you? Who wants to hurt your people? Who? Where is he? She said, right there. It's him. He want to hurt my people. And the king, in all of his protection and providing and love that he had for her, out of here. Haman was hung on the very gallows that he had planned for Mordecai to be killed on. Order, submission, influence, opportunity. The opportunity of a lifetime must be seized within the opportunity, the lifetime of the opportunity. The opportunity of a lifetime must be seized within the lifetime of the opportunity. What if Esther would have said, okay, I understand they about to do all that, but I'm going to take a nap. No, ain't no time for nap. Sometimes it ain't no time. It's time to move. She moved expeditiously to save her people. She sought God and said, we ain't eating or drinking nothing. What if somebody was like, I can't be fasting like that? No. She capitalized on the opportunity. She used her influence. She remained in order. And she was obedient. That's the queen code. But many of us fail at obedience. Many of us don't use our influence. We too worried about what they gonna say. Many of us been out of order. And many of us don't capitalize on opportunities because we're not ready. I wasn't ready to touch that button when God told me to. I wasn't. But he was like, hit the button, let's go. I'll sustain you. I'll sustain you. And he did. And he has. And he continues to do so. Sonia says, watch what you say or plan against somebody. It shows in this particular story that it can be reversed. My grandma would always say that the plot you did for somebody else, you better make sure it ain't your size. You got to make sure it ain't your size. Even if you're a queen, even if you're royalty, you still got to be in order. You still got to obey. And you got to watch how you use your influence. and you got to seize the opportunities. We all want to be a queen. We all walk around talking about, I'm a queen, I'm a queen, I'm a queen. But at the end of the day, we have to own those ingredients and do what they call for so that we can actually be in the midst of the queen code. And that's what I wanted to come and share to you today. So I hope this story has blessed you. I hope you were able to follow along well. And I hope it has touched you and helped you in some way. And if it has, hit the share button. And if you want to join us, because I'm getting ready to launch a very, very something different. I'm excited about it. It's going to be a group for those who want spiritual advancement. If you're interested, just come to bit.ly/Camp Life, all capital letters, all one word, Camp Life, CAMPLIFE. And there are a couple of gifts there for you. So you'll get a few things that'll get you started. But if you want to learn about the tools in your treasure chest, if you want to learn about fasting, if you want to learn about prayer, if you want to learn about worship, if you want to learn about praise, if you want to learn about those things, because sometimes we take for granted that people already know about what those things are. Did you know that praise and worship is not the same thing? We group them together. The praise and worship team, we group them together, but they're not the same. And if you want to learn more about that, if you want to get your spiritual life recharged, revived, then come on, show your interest. It's free to show your interest, but just come on, show your interest. Let me know that you are interested in the group that I'm going to form, and then I'll be giving you more information soon, very, very soon. All right. So I love you guys so very much. I hope that, again, that this has blessed you. I, again, am Zakiya Monique, Master Life and Relationship Strategist. I'm also a transformational speaker, and I provide no fluff strategies to women who want to improve their relationships, not just their intimate relationships, but their platonic relationships, because some of us are out here struggling with our children, with our parents, with our family, and it's hurting our heart equally, okay? So I help you with all manners of your relationships to improve them, and thus even your relationship with yourself. Hello? Because sometimes that's where it starts. So I love you guys so very much. I hope you hit the share button. I hope this has blessed you. I want you to have a great day. You already know how. On purpose. Love you guys.